Welcome to another episode of the Harder to Breathe podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Dusick. I was the founding drummer of Maroon 5, but I'm now a registered therapist, author, and mental health advocate. With me, as always, is my co-host, Duck Maillard. How you doing, Duck?
Hey, buddy. I'm doing good. Do I feel like I have a healthier, warmer glow than normal?
Yeah, except I have a feeling it's something to do with the lighting.
Yeah, it's new lighting. I just want to point it out. It isn't just that my skincare routine has improved.
I know what you look like in person. You can't fool me with this lighting
This
thing.
is age-defying lighting. No.
What'd you do?
I got some new lights. I mean, for the new year, for season 2, I wanted to improve the product for the folks at home who get to watch. So, got some new lighting. Got some new headphones. Because
is that a warm filter? What is it? That
it's just look. If we're really going to get into this, ready? Oh, wait, hold on.
Variable filter.
Yeah. Let's see. Change my coloring. Oh, of course, now it's not working. Oh, there we go. Now I'm...
Oh, I don't like that at all.
Yeah, this is bad. We're going to go back to the warm. There we go. See? Okay. Oh, now it's too hot. So
now your skin looks palatable to me.
Right. So I made some investments in the old Harder to Breathe home studio just to make things a little nicer. So...
Well, I appreciate that.
Hey.
And all of us here at the Harder to Breathe podcast.
Look, you renovated your entire garage and put in a home studio. I spent $29.95 on Amazon. So I feel like it's about even. I feel like we both we're pulling our weight here.
So how you been, man? We're shooting this now. It's not going to come out probably till January, but it's December. It's the holiday season. We've got Christmas right around the corner. This will all be meaningless to people when this comes out.
Christmas was great. It was wonderful.
Right.
No, I mean, look, end of the year, beginning of the year is obviously a time of you kind of look back and we did that with our season finale episode back in December. We talked a little bit with our first guest and stuff about the new year and things like that. But it's a chance to kind of look back and see the things that you wish you had done better, things that you want to do better in the new year. We talk about it a little bit today with our conversation with Jamie in terms of, are we doing all we can for our lives and our careers to kind of reach our maximum potential, and I answered honestly in the interview that no, I probably not. If I wanted to, be more of a go-getter and network and take acting classes and write my own screenplays and all that stuff, I could be doing that. Mm-hmm. I'm living in the place where I am both. I mean, I'm a little unsatisfied with my career, but I mean, I'm happy with the rhythm of it. You know what I mean? I don't feel like there's something lacking in terms of fulfillment. So that's why I don't feel compelled to do all that stuff. I think if I was feeling a little behind on that I maybe would be inspired to do more, take some self-motivation stuff. But I'm in a pretty good place. How about you? Do you feel like you're happy with the kind of the give and take of your personal life, professional life, things like that?
I do feel happy. I have been kind of pondering the same things, and I didn't say it in the interview, so I guess I could talk about it here.
Yeah.
I'm in that place too, where I'm wondering, like, am I doing as much as I can? I have ambitions that there's probably more I could be doing, to be pursuing. And it's like, what am I willing to do?
Yeah.
What am I willing to sacrifice? How far am I willing to go? And how much of it, if there's a block there at all in terms of not doing certain things, how much of it is fear? Mm-hmm. And things that are just me rationalizing reasons why I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Because sometimes you feel like, I want to believe that sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your time, but no. I feel like I want to believe that it's that like Marie Kondo, like, does this spark joy? And if not, I'm not going to do it. Right, I feel like that's what I was trying to say very ineloquently. If there was a hole in my life that would be filled by writing a screenplay, I would like to think that I would sit down and do it. But like, I feel like I'm in a place where I don't need to do that right now, and maybe that is me rationalizing and just being and making excuses for laziness or something. But
as we talked about in the season 1 finale, anything worth doing is going to have aspects to it that you don't want to do. It's that 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration thing. If you're going to write a screenplay, it's going to require things of you that are going to be difficult. I got to
sit down and write for an hour every day, even if I don't want to. Yeah.
And you're probably going to have to, there's work ethic involved. There's education and learning certain new skill sets, that it's going to take some time, and you just being open to that. And you're going to have to go certain places. I mean, like when I wrote my book, I had to go places that were difficult to go to. You know, you have to kind of, to really go to a place with any art and any project that is worthwhile, you have to go to some places that are very vulnerable human places that you might be avoiding in your daily life. And so to sit down and actually really plumb the depths of that, that you have to put some things aside, that it's easy to find rationalizations, every reason not to do that. Yeah. Yeah. So for me, we've discussed a lot, and we talk a lot about it a little bit with Jamie, you know, just the things about business entrepreneurship and being competitive and promoting, you know, a product that feel a little icky to me, and that I've been kind of rationalizing not doing to the level, or not investing myself literally or figuratively to the level that I could potentially. Yeah. And I'm also I'm not as cheap as you, but I don't like to spend money.
How dare you, sir? No, look, we have a lot of guests on here who are, you know, business minded, CEOs, moguls. And man, I try to be like, yeah, that sounds great. But there's a part of me that listens to them. I go, I could never do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to have that responsibility in my life to like get up every day, write a checklist, check off things every day, exercise. I mean, I know you exercise.
Well, but I do all those things actually. That is my lifestyle already. Everything is a to-do list, and I'm knocking things off the list. I'm very productive. I already kind of live that way. However, what I discovered this weekend, actually, I was talking to a friend about this, and I was talking about like my ambitions and the things I would like to do, and setting goals for myself in terms of how successful I'd like the show to be, and other products I could create that would be mental health themed, and whether it's coaching or speaking or more books or things like that. And I just had this moment where I realized, and I kind of used this friend as a therapist for the moment, because I had to talk it out. I was like,
I was cheating on me? How dare you?
I'm your therapist, Doug.
Oh, right. Okay. Continue.
No, it was a moment of self-reflection. And I was like, if I'm being honest with myself, I was asking myself, like, what am I feeling right now? Because whenever I have this conversation with something comes up, and I haven't taken the time to reflect on it fully and really look inward. And I realized there's this ick factor that comes in when I talk about this stuff. And it makes me, I feel like I feel a little bit cringy. It's cringy to me when I talk about ambition, and when I talk about, you know, how successful I want to be and what I'd like to do ideally in terms of lifestyle and success. Yeah. Right. I think there's a lot of reasons why that's the case. We've discussed before on the show. You know, I come from a generation where you're not supposed to care that much. You know, it's like you're supposed to be an artist and you just do your art. And if people like it, they like it. But you're not supposed to care that much about whether or not you're accepted in your time, or, you know, it's the Kurt Cobain kind of aesthetic. And so there's just that on a basic level, but it's also, I think I've already had success in one realm of my life. And for some reason, the idea of like being ambitious at this point in my life, even though I want to be, and I admire it in other people, for some reason, I feel like embarrassed by it. Like I want to apologize for it. Like, oh, that's kind of selfish and greedy to want to be
you've already had enough. Leave some for someone else.
Yeah. And also just I think it's in my self-image when I hear other people talking about entrepreneurship, it's like a weird dichotomy, because I'm attracted to it, and I think it's cool that people are ambitious and if they're a go-getter and they go out and do something and they see it through. But then there's also like a cringe factor where I'm like, well, you're prioritizing that over what really matters. Mm-hmm. And so like when I'm talking about those things, and I'm talking about it in the aspect of the administrative aspects, the things you have to do to promote yourself and to build a brand, I feel like I'm not sitting in the place where I want to be, where I'm doing something that is close to my soul, and close to what my value system is and what I admire most and aspire to most. And so I'm always wondering, like, is this person I'm telling these things to judging me in that way? Yeah. Like, are they thinking, oh my God, here's another schmuck who just wants to make a buck and is thinking about his career and being ambitious and all that stuff. And then I asked this friend of mine, I was like, it was just like a reality testing thing. It was like, that's what I'm feeling as I'm talking about that. Talking about this, I'm feeling cringy. Like they must be thinking that. Are you getting that? And she was like, no, I'm not sensing that at all. I'm sitting here thinking like, wow, he's got a lot going on. He's got a lot of things that are inspiring and fulfilling to him, and he wants to go out in the world and try to make it happen. Like that's so inspiring. Like there's nothing cringy about that to me. It's just, it's having a passion, having a drive.
And it's the place where it comes from, and it comes from a place of authenticity. Like you didn't start this podcast to sell your book. You started this podcast to share your message and to help people. And the same reason I came on board, and I think that goes a long way. We talk about it with our guest today, Jamie Greenberg, who has a great social media following, and her stuff that she makes is very organic and very authentic because she's at the dentist and she's like, so I'm she films it and she goes, I'm getting a root canal today. Doctor, tell me about what's happening. And the guy's really awkward. He's like, I don't normally talk about that, but I mean, it doesn't feel cringy the same way that like you drive down Beverly Hills and you see people doing TikToks in the middle of the street and you're like, get out of it. This is so gross. Like just enjoy the palm trees, and it ties back to what I was talking about in terms of not having the desire to do these things that I feel like I should be doing. You and I have talked about, doing more for our social media this year for the second season. And that stuff I'm inspired by, and that stuff I'm excited to do. It isn't just us like promoting and doing dumb stuff. It's like, we want to be creative and shoot some videos that talk about our lives and talk about the show and things like that. And I've already got a list of 10 ideas and things that I'm going to, because I think making movies and filming, like that's stuff that's in my soul, and that's stuff that isn't work. I don't have to force myself to sit down and do it the way I would to write a screenplay or something. You know what I mean? So I think as long as it comes from a place of true belief in what we're doing and authenticity, it doesn't feel cringy to me.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the conclusion that I've come to, both in the conversations that we've been having recently about next steps, and also just in these moments of self-reflection, because I think I realized that there is a certain amount of blocking that I've been doing in my own mind that's preventing me from taking certain actions because of more just fear and more just kind of like
fear of perception, fear of how other people will perceive it.
I think it's fear of like my life becoming something that I don't recognize in a way that then becomes a responsibility to live up to something that I don't want to live up to. Mm-hmm. It's like I've carved out in my mind certain things that would be fun and enjoyable and fulfilling, that feel purposeful. And I know there are certain things that will be required in order to make those things sustainable, to make them actually viable and continue to do them and not just be hemorrhaging money and just doing it for no one.
But I'm having fun.
And so there's no reason why that can't all go hand in hand in terms of having a work ethic that is consistent with something that feels genuine and authentic to me. Mm-hmm. And that's the secret sauce, right? That's the secret. You have to find a way to make it authentic balance to you. Yeah. Like for me to do some of the things that Jamie talks about, and we'll get to in a minute, wouldn't be authentic to me. You know what I mean? Like some of the things that because her sense of humor and her personality, she's very outgoing, very extroverted. Like that's not the kind of content that I would create. However, that doesn't mean that I can't create content that's authentic to me. It's just like, it's a different brand, and not everyone has to do the same kind of thing. And I think that
maybe the fun will be filming you in those awkward situations and seeing how uncomfortable you get. That's what I'll do. I'll just film you at the dentist being like, Ryan, what are you feeling right now?
Well, it does help to have you as a partner in crime, because I think that we can complement each other in that regard, and we could be there to kind of lift the weight, because to be that type of influencer who just has their phone and they're documenting everything all the time and doing it in that way, that would be I don't think that's going to happen for me. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to make that's not my personality. But I'm realizing, like, when I wrote the book and I realized I wanted as many people to read this as I could get, possibly to know that it exists and want to buy it. Not because I wanted to make a fortune, but because I really believed in it. It was something I was proud of. And I was like, this could help some people. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a project that you spent a lot of hours on, wanting it to be successful. And so I started on social media for the first time. I started an Instagram account. I started posting things. I was prepared. I said yes to every podcast interview request that I possibly could. And I was willing to do a lot. And then I think somewhere along the line, realizing, like, okay, it's not going to be a bestseller, I got a little bit discouraged. And so I think, I don't know, in starting the podcast, I wanted to do everything I could to make it successful as well. But there's also like this little block of kind of like, well, maybe I'm not going to go as far as I possibly could go, or be like a total, and the language matters, but be a total whore, you know, and just say yes to everything and just try to be omnipresent in every way I can on social media, because I don't want to put myself out there and then be disappointed or, you know, create something that becomes something I don't want it to be. But I think that's rationalization. I think that's just kind of getting in the way. It's like, I'm also in the middle of, you know, finalizing my licensing as a therapist, and that's taking a lot of my time and energy. But once that's done, I feel like I'm comfortable of reinvesting in the ways we've discussed, you know, like, yeah, it's going to take a little bit of work. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time to figure out how this fits into my lifestyle and the ways in which it will feel authentic to me. But it's not impossible.
It's still about quality over quantity. It isn't going to be putting out a video every day. It's going to be about, you know, figuring out our voice because it's separate from the podcast. You know, it's like, this is the message that we send in this hour and a half, but we also want to have these little 30-second or 1 minute things that help bring people to the podcast, see some personality, see the behind the scenes stuff. And, you know, like, so as I'm saying, it's more about quality than just inundating viewers with a video every 6 hours. You know, that's not going to do it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, again, it helps to have a partner, because look, having a project and having a collaboration is fun. Yeah. You know, and this is no different. I mean, I'm not a filmmaker in the way that you are, but I think the only reason why the prospect of that has not sounded fun is because there's an image in my mind of what that is. And it's somebody who spends all their time just on their phone, being very self-indulgent. That doesn't sound appealing to me. And it doesn't have to be that. It can be just like this podcast is for us. It's a venture that we took on together and is creative and is inspiring and fun and has meaning and purpose to it. Like, it should be that. That's what it should be. And here comes the ham-fisted segue. But that's what it is for our guest today, Jamie Greenberg. She has this incredibly busy life where she balances being an influencer, being a makeup artist, being a parent, being a business owner. But none of those things, at least to hear her tell it, overwhelm her in any one way, because she only does as much as what makes her happy, you know? And so she seems to have found an incredible balance of, you know, what is important and what she really wants to be doing. And if something starts to get, you know, too overwhelming or too much, she shifts that balance back to the things that matter, mostly her family. You can kind of hear that in the conversation that's the priority, which that sounds like a no-brainer, but for a lot of people, especially people in business, that isn't always the case. So it's a great conversation with Jamie where she kind of sheds some light on how she manages to balance all that stuff. Nice segue. Thank you. I'm getting good. It's our second season. I better be good at it by now. Yeah. Well, so if you want to drop us a line, send us an email. We're getting into, you know, taking some of the content that we get from our listeners and talking about on the show. That's part of the integrated stuff that we're talking about too. We want this to be kind of a multimedia more interactive. More interactive. Yeah. So please do email us at Harder to Breathe Podcast. No, you were right. Yeah. At Harder to Breathe Podcast at gmail.com. Well, now that I stumbled over it, you'll remember it that much better, right? Wait, was that Harder to Breathe Podcast at gmail.com? I believe so. I believe it was. Harder to Breathe Podcast at gmail.com, right? Now you've said it too many times. Now people are going to forget it. Yeah. All right. Well, without further ado, here is our conversation with the lovely, funny, and talented and successful Jamie Greenberg right here on the Harder to Breathe Podcast. Jamie Greenberg, welcome to the Harder to Breathe Podcast. How you doing? I am so happy to be here, and finally we got to do this. So you're harder to track down than like the president. We'll pull back the curtain a little bit. We've had to reschedule with Jamie many times. She's too busy for us. She keeps blowing us off for famous people to do their makeup or something. It's fine. No, if there was dollar signs, then I would keep it. I'm just kidding. All we had to do was pay you? That's it. Ryan, we should have known. Oh, and I come cheap too. I will work for food. I will work for booze. What about that's perfect for our show, the theme of the show. Exactly. We give away booze to people. It's very progressive.
Duck, was she hard to pin down in college, or is this a new aspect
Well,
of the life of Jamie?
as we were just talking about, Jamie and I were neighbors freshman year, which was a new experience for me living in a co-ed dorm. And so, yeah, she was already off onto a social life while I was sitting at home trying to learn Fish songs on the guitar. So I don't think we traveled in the same circles then or now. But that's okay because she's here.
I remember. I mean, I can't believe we had co-ed dorms. Like that was crazy. And again, I can't believe we didn't mess around at all.
I'm sure. I'm sure some people did. As I said, I was more focused on trying to nail "You Enjoy Myself." But,
and I remember your roommate Ben.
Yeah, Ben and Chad. Shout out to Ben and Chad. Much love.
Did Chad play football?
He looked like a football player, that was for sure. But poor Ben had a tough time walking all the way up the hill from the park school.
I know. Had you talked to either of them? Do you know where they are?
I have not. It's been a good 30 years. So Chad and Ben, wherever you guys are, I hope you're thriving.
Hi, guys.
Come on the pod and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about what kind of a roommate I was at 18.
Oh my God. You were funny though. I feel like we always got along.
Agreed.
And yeah, your door was always open.
That was to try to get rid of some of the smell, I think. 18-year-old boys.
It definitely was a waft of not cleaning sheets.
Right.
3 boys in that little teeny room.
Yeah, you just had one roommate, right? You were in a double. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So there's our history. We got the history out of the way.
So Jamie, I get the sense, from the fact that we rescheduled 3-4 times already, because your life seems to be one full of a lot of moving parts between being a parent of 3 children, running your own company, doing makeup for the stars,
social
and
media.
I'm sure, social media,
softball mom, big time softball mom. We'll talk about that.
So to kind of get the ball rolling, what does that look like? I mean, is this like a day by day having to kind of just adapt to it on the fly? How do you manage all of these balls in the air?
Oh, we're about to see the whiteboard.
I'm pulling the whiteboard out. I was going to show you. Well, I use a Google Calendar that alerts me of and it's color coded. I'll show it to you guys. So that's our calendar.
Holy God.
So everything has to be on the calendar. Luckily, I have a partner, Josh, who is very involved and really good and will take any task. He's like, just put it in the calendar. Just put it in the calendar. So for those of you guys that don't know, so I do makeup. I do public appearance makeup. It's a weird niche. And I always say we're like the doctor of beauty because we're always on call. You could get a call let's say it's 10:30 in the morning right now. You could get a call at 10:30 in the morning and be like, can you be at the Chateau Marmont at 12 o'clock? That doesn't happen as often, but it does happen. Or I remember I was pregnant with my 3rd kid and I got a call. I was really pregnant, dripping pregnant. And
what does that mean?
I've never heard it described as such.
And, everything was about to pop. And I got a call and they're like, Drake needs makeup at midnight. And it was 8 o'clock at night. And I was like, man, I really want to do it because it's Drake, but I can't even move. So I'll never forget that one. So that job alone is very time consuming. I have lost friendships over it, but my friends that know me know that that's just what it comes with. I might miss the rehearsal dinner. I might miss the baby shower. It's how I make a living. So when the job comes in, I usually have to take it. Then in between that, the kids luckily have school till, 2:30, 3 o'clock. And then after that, it's I try to get everything in as far as my business and social media in those hours. And then after that, it's off to practices, Uber for the children.
Wow.
In a nutshell.
When do you sleep exactly?
So I try to be in bed by 10 o'clock at night, where I will watch shows on my iPhone in my bed to the side for 2 hours and then sleep from usually 11, 12 to 5:36.
And is Josh on the same schedule or does he stay up late and
He is the same, and he'll do the bulk of the work in the morning with kids to school, all that stuff, and then I do the bulk of work at night, putting them to bed. And of course they never want to go to bed. So that's when I like have my meltdowns, and I would love to show some of that on social media. Sometimes I just laugh because I'm like, who am I? I'm like, go to bed, you idiots! Come on.
The thing that I see a lot, because obviously I follow you on Instagram, and so one of the things I want to ask you about is how you manage a very active social media presence, but also manage to make it it doesn't feel, like you're scripted. It doesn't feel like you've got, you show a lot of your life. There's always a lot of vomiting. There's a lot of kids throwing up a lot, which sounds to me like a nightmare. But you seem to just roll with it. But like I see a lot of like 4:30, 5:30 in the morning, you rolling out to a job and things like that. And it's impressive to see you being able to do that and then flying to Phoenix for a softball tournament, and then you're back to see Simon's basketball. I mean, it's really impressive. So kudos to you. I don't know how you do it.
Thank you. My mom was kind of like that. I feel like she was very like
big on social media. Big social media presence.
Huge on social media. Yeah. She was, she had candlelight and a beta cam and
I'm sure that would look great.
Yeah.
Candlelight.
All vintage.
I bet the kids are doing that now.
Probably.
Like with the beta cam, using all that stuff. Yeah, no, she was like, I think she was more anxiety driven. So like when I had a day off with her, she's like, we're going to the Giant, we're going to Loman's, we're going to Bloomingdale's, we're going to go drop this off, we're going to return this, we're going to pick up this, we're going to the dry cleaning. And it was like, So, but I think it seeped in where like I realized how much you can get done in a day. And it's just in my blood. Like I don't tire. I only tire when I stop, but I'm a true Gemini. When I stop, I could... Like before Josh and I had kids, we were that Portlandia sketch where you sit and you watch a show for like a week and you lose your job.
Yeah.
You ever see that when Netflix first started? But we would do that with I remember we got Nip Tuck. Someone gave me the box set, the whole entire all the seasons. And we sat for like a week and didn't do anything and just binged. And so I can turn off too.
Yeah.
But I like it. I like getting shit done. I like doing stuff. I like being busy. With anything, there's always like ebbs and flows in everything you do. So like when I'm having trouble with something in my job, I find it's a good escape to go to the family. And then when my family's annoying me, it's fun to go to my job. And I find there's always like this interweaving of like relief in everything that I do.
I can relate to what you said about, how you like to keep going. You like to be productive. And I don't know for me if that's a coping style. I think it is. It is hard for me to shut off until I'm like exhausted and I have to like pass out because I'm so, it's like it's time to turn off the engines and just cool down and recuperate. But while I have energy, I want to keep going. I want to be doing something and feel like I'm being productive, because if I'm not, I feel like I'm being lazy. I feel like I'm missing something. It's going to take too long and it's going to pass me by. So is that a coping style for you? Or you mentioned that for your mom, it was anxiety driven. Is it not for you?
I think you're right. Now that I think about it, were either of your parents like that or no?
My dad is hyperactive and he's like a fixer. He's always trying to take care of everything, take care of everyone. Go.
And my mom turns 77 next week, and every time I call her, she's refinishing furniture or picking blueberries, freezing them, and making blueberry pies. She lives alone in North Carolina, but she's making blueberry pies nonstop because the blueberries have to get used.
Yes.
It just makes sense.
You should open up a shop,
right?
Yeah.
Maybe she could talk to you about starting a business.
She should.
God forbid the blueberries should go to waste.
Never. Or furniture should go unfinished.
You guys, if you want to come over, I have tons of oranges and grapefruits from our trees.
Oh, I got enough oranges for a lifetime.
Yeah, I know. It's like you wish that when you move to California that you can get these trees, and then you're like, you just watch all the squirrels.
Yeah.
Nothing ever. You're like,
I don't know if you're like me, but our orange trees kind of are along the street, and I'll occasionally catch people like reaching over, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I'm like, "No, let me get you a bag." I'm like, "Please take more." Take them. Exactly. They're just rot, and the squirrels are just gonna eat them and leave them in my yard. So
yes, that's all they do. It's such a nuisance.
Yeah, but you do think it is from that that anxiety place?
Yeah, I do, because I think I'm very heady, and so if I have too much free time when I have great energy, it usually can spiral into a negative. Like, I can start to turn on myself a little bit. So yeah, I do think so.
What does that look like? What does the turning on yourself look like?
I also think because I had a mom that like, it was my mom and my dad, like just the bar was so high that like, even if I got like the school lead in the play, my mom would be like, why don't we go volunteer at the Ronald McDonald House later? Like it was never, and like I had to be doing something at all times.
That's the Jersey mindset.
Yeah, it really is. It's like
overachieve.
Overachieve.
Is that
they can brag about it.
Yes, Ryan. That's what it is.
That's what it is. Where was I going? Oh yeah. So if I don't, I'll just like go inward and like Ryan, like you said, like I'll just be like, why I'll start. Well, now you have Instagram and TikTok and social media. So now if you sit and you get lost in that, then you're comparing yourself to everybody, and I'm not immune to it. It'll just be like, shit, why didn't I get that cover? Or crap, why didn't I get that press tour? Or like, oh my God, look at all these people. Look at all the things they're creating. I should be making stuff. I should be doing this. And I hate that dialogue. I hate it. It's not good. It's not real. Doesn't even really exist. It's just these stories that I make up. So I've been really good at, blocking things that I know that'll upset me, like muting things that'll upset me. But then also just like, I do scroll, but now my feed is like food and things that I can get lost in that I appreciate. And then I'll make a recipe. So I try to counteract it. But yeah, I think I will go play the comparison game, and I'm not good enough, and I'm not, my career is not where I want it to be. And it's just like, oh God, shut up, Is
that something that you keep in mind when you make your content? Because I like I said, I see your content and a lot, and I never get a sense of like, well, if you're not, there's never any negativity to it. There's never any like, well, if you're not, your skin isn't looking the way you're supposed to, then you're doing it wrong. You know what I mean? Is that something you're conscious of when creating your content, to not kind of feed into that? Well, if you're not doing this, you're not keeping up with the most trend. Is it something that you make a conscious choice to stay positive and to stay away from that sort of comparative thing?
Yeah, I think so. I also don't like when people listen, I'm not going to say I've never cried on social media, but I do find that there's so much negativity. I am not a negative person. Mm-hmm. I might go negative with myself, but I'm a positive person. I always see the silver lining. I always I give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I am just trying to lead with love. I enjoy that exchange with human nature, like human beings, like until shit goes awry, then the Jersey comes out and right. I fucking hate you. No, just but I try to keep it light and positive because I think people need that. And I know I need that. And I'm attracted to those creators that are always bringing the good and sprinkling it with a little dose of reality. That's why I will go, I'll not wear makeup or talk about, my kids are barfing.
Yeah, you do a ton. You do a ton of that shit yourself. Like in terms of like, I'm going to try this on myself and see how it looks, and I might look ridiculous, and you know what I mean. That's what I love about the stuff that you do. As a guy who doesn't follow a ton of makeup influencers, I can't imagine that all their content is like yours. I have to. It's a lot, probably a lot more protected and curated to only look their best and to only like present the perfect image. Yeah,
I think that. And I don't know if you guys feel like this because we're in this business, but I don't feel like I've changed that much from where I grew up to who I am now. Like, I feel like I've really stayed who I am, and I still don't like fully accept, like when people are like, God, your career. I'm like, really? Like, it's not, it's what? And so I really try to stay. I just want everyone to feel like they can do whatever they want and get there, and that life is messy. And even in this position of this job that I have, that seems like it's such a magical job. Like there's shit going on there too. Like we're all in the same shit, like I love my job. And so I do try to tell people, like, try to find something you love to do. And I think you guys love your jobs, but I don't know if I answered the question, but I
You did.
Okay.
You did.
So is positivity the way that you live your life in this way? Is that a choice, or is this just your set point and then you have some off days? Or do you make the choice to be positive and engage in the way that you do?
I think I am genetically inclined to be positive. But like I said, like if on an off day, I can go down,
Down
you know,
the rabbit hole.
Yeah. But I am a positive person. I like to have fun. I feel, my whole life, I didn't when I was younger, I was more insecure, but I was outgoing. So you would never know. And as you get older now, I'm like knocking on 50, I mean, I can't believe it, but I'm finally at a point where I'm so comfortable in the sense that like, I know who I am, and I know that where I go, I'm going to bring good vibes, and I'm really conscious of vibes now. Like I know my dad will be like, you've been in California too long, but you can read the vibes. That's my job, is to walk into a room and meet a stranger that I'm going to go touch their face and make them feel good. Like I have to read that person's energy. Do they want jokes, or are they more serious? Do I need to be quiet? I have to read the room. So that skill set I've used over and over for the past 25 years. And now I can meet a person and I know immediately what their vibe count is. And it's such a magical tool to have in life, and then when you connect with somebody who matches your vibe, it's like poof, it's like a beautiful thing. So some people have low vibes, and I try to raise them. But the minute I feel it mixing with, everyone writes about it, everybody talks about it, but it is a real thing. It's as real as the sky is blue.
And, I've been getting my makeup done for 25 years in this business too. And it's a strangely intimate relationship that you are forced to have immediately. First thing in the morning, you get on set, you go in the makeup chair, and this person is an inch away from your face, touching your face. And yeah, they read if you want to have a chat, or if you're just tired and you want to eat your breakfast, or, and I find, and I've always found, that hair and makeup people on set are the people that I like kind of bond with the most, because you have this downtime, and a lot of times they're like, where the hell is hair? And they're getting yelled at, and you kind of commiserate with them. You're like, it's not your fault. I wipe my face. I'm sorry. So I know what that is. And here's something I've never revealed on the podcast. For about 3 fateful months in the late 90s, or the mid 90s, I worked at the Body Shop at the Rockaway Mall in Rockaway, New Jersey. And all employees were required to learn how to do makeovers. And so for like an after work session one day, I had to learn how to like do makeovers on my manager. And I'm sure I made her look like the whore of Babylon. Like I had a very heavy hand. This probably like mid-20s woman with like a 17-year-old kid being like, "Now, do you like a blue eyeshadow?" But so I have some experience on the other side of it, and I can say I do not envy you having to be an inch from someone's face and making those decisions.
That's so funny.
That's actually, so I want to ask you about your job, obviously, how you got started in it, because when you went to school, you went for like photography and film, right?
Yeah. Yep. Film and photography.
So how did you find this interesting little niche in this business? Were you into makeup before?
I was very into makeup, but it wasn't something that I thought I didn't know how to even break into that career path. So I went to New York after college, and I worked in film editing, which I really enjoyed. But I was like, the bottom of the barrel. Yeah. And it's a lot of sitting alone in a dark room, eating. Yeah. And that's not my personality.
Sounds like a great job. What's the problem?
I know, for some. So I like soon left that, and then kind of romped around New York trying to figure out what I wanted.
Stand up?
I did stand up.
You did stand up. I remember that. Yeah.
I could see that.
I did stand up. That's like a little secret. I don't like tell anyone, but
oh, sorry.
It's out. No, it's out there. It's people know, but yeah, I did stand up, and that was also a great place to hone skills. Like I am not afraid of speaking in front of a large group of people. Mm-hmm. Ever, because they're the easiest crowd to make laugh. And then I realized the exchange of getting somebody to laugh is something I enjoy, but I did not have that thing where like everyone's like, you have to be able to like stab your mom in the back to get ahead in this business. And I was just like, I don't really like it. And I my parents were actually very supportive of it, and they wanted it more than I did. And I was like, so I did that for a while, but it was great to hone my skills. And then I did like improv, and I waited tables, I sold printing, I did it all. And then we were like, let's move to LA after a couple of years in New York. And we had a summer that we were staying in Pennsylvania, and we were like, let's get jobs, just whatever jobs. So I went and got a job at Ulta because someone's like, you love makeup, you should go to Ulta. So I worked at Ulta in Oxford Valley, Pennsylvania. What? I made like $7.50 an hour.
Yep.
And I used to have to get up and unload the trucks once a week at like 4:30 in the morning. And it was terrible like situation. But I loved product, and they gave you free product, and they trained you on product. And then people would come in and be like, can I have a makeover? Like you had.
Right.
And I remember I did a Bare Minerals makeover on somebody, and they bought everything and were so happy. And I was like, that exchange was like, I was hooked. And then it was like, who can I get next? And so then when I moved to LA, I actually opened the first Ulta. I got switched to $13 an hour, just to give you an idea of the difference in pay in Oxford Valley, Pennsylvania and Los Angeles. So like double the pay almost, and worked there for 6 months. And then I was like, I have to go to Bloomingdale's. Everyone goes to Bloomingdale's. I have to go work at a counter. So I went to work at a counter, and that is really where I honed my skills. Like the tipping point, 10,000 hours, I would pull everybody, every color, age, everything. And so I would have to do makeup on every type of skin. And it was just such a good education. And then when you did well, they would buy everything. And then when you didn't do well, they would like moonwalk away. Be like, thank
with the
you.
makeup wipes immediately.
Yes, just like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're
this
like,
is very
oh
unique. I would never see myself in these colors.
That's exactly how it was. And so, and working at Bloomingdale's, it was great because you could go around and chat with people and be like, what's new at Laura Mercier? What's new? So I got to learn a lot about product. I got to learn about technique. There was a guy that worked at MAC who I'm still friends with, who became like a huge makeup artist too. He worked with like Billie Eilish and tons of people. Rob, what up? And I remember he came over and taught me about brushes. He's like, I worked at a counter called Paula Dorf, and it had all different types of brushes. She was a makeup artist who created a line before makeup artists created lines. And she had, it looked like artist brushes, like so many different types of brushes. I was like, I never knew. And he's like, this one's for the crease, and this one's for here. This is for your brow. This is for your lips. And I was like, wow. So it was just a great education, getting education in the field is like the greatest thing in the world.
Experience. Right?
Yeah. Everyone's like, you have to go to makeup school. And I'm like, I am not paying for any more school. Like we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seemed like what you were saying earlier, that as much as you developed that skill set for doing makeup and all these different styles, that it was about the people skills as much, about the way that you interact with people and having that ability to sense the vibe and play to the vibe. So was that something that you had to hone? And was that part of the 10,000 hours of developing your makeup skills? Or was that something you had inherently already?
I think I naturally had that, but I didn't realize it, And when I first started to get into celebrity, it was really, really tough because you're comparing yourself to all the makeup artists who were successful. I assisted a bunch of them. And I'm like, what is their deal? They are already established. They're wearing labels. They're into the material things. And I was just like, do I have to buy like all like labeled clothes to be
Gucci
like
makeup bags?
Yeah. Do I need a Gucci makeup bag? Do I need Louis Vuitton shoes? Like it seemed that everybody that was doing that was successful. So I was just like, and then one day my husband said to me, he's like, just be yourself and you'll attract the right people. And I was like, oh, but also I'm a people pleaser. So that's part of being able to be a chameleon is like, oh, you like this? I like this. You like that? I like that, So that was part of it. So I was a people pleaser. So that was like, again, being a people pleaser and being outgoing and being able to talk to people is like a great mix for somebody because you really try to make them feel good. But once I started being myself, which took a couple years, I started to attract all funny ladies. Like everyone I work with has a sense of humor, and then work was fun and funny and enjoyable. But I would say that, like, for the most part, for my recipe, it was like being able to read the room and then having the skill set to do makeup. Like, everybody's good at makeup at this point. Everyone can do great makeup. There are some that
it's
are
who people want to hang out with.
Yeah.
Take on the road, have that entourage lifestyle.
Exactly.
I see your life sometimes flying to comedy shows or movie premieres and stuff, and you got to be part of the crew. And if you're a shitty hang, no one's going to hire you to be part of that crew. Yeah.
Although you would be surprised, some shitty hangs get hired by shitty people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's someone for everyone.
True.
I have a friend, Nushik, who's been doing, cutting and styling my hair for probably 10 plus years now.
Nice hair.
Thank you. And she's like, she's a good friend. And I find when I go to get my hair cut once a month that I end up just sort of gushing, and it's like a therapy session for me. I just start talking and talking, and I'm like, I don't talk this way with my other friends normally, maybe Duck. I'm like, okay, there's a unique talent or skill set that certain people have in that position. And some bartenders have it, but I think that makeup artists or hairstylists, you've got somebody sitting in your chair for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is, depending on the gig. And that's either going to be a good experience or a bad experience or a really boring experience, I imagine. Is it always, it sounds like for you, it's humor, it's connection and vibes. Is it ever heavy? Are you ever connecting to someone who's in a darker place? Where does that go?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it all, you guys. Like, you are with these people in their homes, and, life will get in the way of a premiere. Doesn't care. Doesn't matter. There's deaths, there's breakups, there's, hard times. And yeah, I have to be there for all of it. So that's really when you start to get that, like, friendship to the next level, is like when you're involved in, like, the serious shit, because it's all fun and games, and then life happens and it's not funny. And so yeah, I've seen it all. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
Covering up the dark circles from the tears.
Yeah, covering up the tears.
But there is an emotional support element to that. You're making someone feel, you can help them hide that pain at that moment. And you got me through it. You helped me look my best when I wasn't feeling my best. There's probably a lot of gratitude that person would feel to you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's literally like being a social worker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. It's yeah. I mean, like, she can be my therapist sometimes, and it's helpful. I find it, and being a therapist, you learn pretty early on. You don't actually have to do that much if you're connecting with somebody, just being empathically connected and attuned to where they're at, feeling the vibe that they're in, and matching it, mirroring where they're at. Because if they're in a funny place and you can be funny and have a good time, that's great. But if they're in a different place and you're just trying to cheer them up, like, that's not exactly what they need in that moment. They might just need you to hold space for them, to be where they're at.
I mean, humans are really complex. Think about just you guys. I mean, I'm sure both of you have had moments where you've had to show up for work and you're just like, not there, so it's like, it's being support, it's being love for the person.
Who does that for you on the days when you're not feeling it?
I mean, my husband puts up with all my moods. He's amazing. My kids are amazing too. If I have a bad day, and I'm like, they're like so sweet, So my family does, and I have some good friends like you guys, Ryan and Duck. I have some best friends that will, like, just check me and make me feel better, because we all need that. We all need somebody to just hold our hand when we're down or something bad happens,
Especially when you are the person that people often turn to lift them up. Sometimes it's the sad clown vibe that I get that sometimes. I feel like it's my job to lift people up, make people laugh. But what happens when I'm feeling shitty? and they're like, but your job is to make us happy. Like, you know what I mean? Like when I'm down, sometimes my wife will be like, but you're the one who's strong. I can't, like she sometimes feels helpless. Like I'm the guy that always like takes care of the logistics and stuff. And some days if I'm not in the mood for that, she's like, but that's your job. You know what I mean?
Wait, I use that sad clown. Was there some show or there's a song or something from like our childhood, like 70s, 80s?
Well, there's the story of Pagliacci. It's sort of an allegory, of the sad clown, and he goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, I've got the perfect prescription. Pagliacci, the great clown, is in town. You should go see him. And he says, but doctor, I am Pagliacci. It's that sort of, I don't know if it's a fable or what, but
okay.
That's where I know it from.
I know it from Seinfeld. Right? There was the whole episode on that.
I think it's from The Watchmen, how I know it, yeah.
Growing up, I don't think I have it in here. I had a picture. My aunt is an artist, and she had made this really beautiful watercolor of a clown that it was very sad, but was holding a happy mask in its hand. Mm-hmm. And I think it was probably a copy of somebody else's. But yeah, I think I sometimes will drive away from a job thinking about being a sad clown because we are human and we fall into moods and yeah, it's tough.
We have a running joke in our house that comes out every Christmas, but it is very telling. And those listeners of the show and Ryan who have heard my childhood and my story will connect with this. In kindergarten, we had to make a clown. We like sewed it together, and I chose to make a sad clown. Everybody else made a happy clown, and we made it as a Christmas ornament. And so every year we pull that out, and everyone goes, oh, there's Daddy's sad clown. And it is, but it's like, it was really telling that I was like, I remember thinking, even at 5 years old, like, well, sometimes clowns are sad, and they need to be represented. So I made a sad clown. And now, sure, the therapist, Ryan, is going, we got to get to the bottom of this.
The themes we've hit on in terms of people, it sounds like both of you guys relate to the people-pleasing aspect of performance. And being a performer is oftentimes about wanting to lift other people up and getting your validation from that, feeling like you have value by entertaining other people or making other people laugh. And that can be a heavy burden to carry. I mean, I can relate to that in both careers that I've been in, as a musician, as a performer. I'm a moody guy by nature. I have ups and downs. And when I was performing every single night, there were days when I just was tired and exhausted and depressed or anxious and just didn't want to go on stage. But then you feel this responsibility to your audience to go out there and be your most dynamic self and have to put that on even when you're not feeling it. I know that as an actor, you have to do that. Mm-hmm. Comedians are notorious for having a dark side.
Being grouchy, yeah.
And the comedy is a way of trying to cope with it. And then as a therapist, I mean, I relate to it sort of from the other end where, you're dealing with heavy stuff a lot, but you're also just having to show up and be present for other people a lot. And so I'm not really a people pleaser by nature. I mean, I definitely have erred on the side of wanting to show up for other people and maybe for my own ego, feel like a good person or feel like I'm showing up for other people and getting my validation in that way. But as a therapist, just having to be connected all the time, that empathic attunement, you run the risk of compassion fatigue and burnout. Mm-hmm. So I wonder for you, Jamie, even though this is your nature, like how do you prevent that? Because is it being able to check out sometimes, being able to turn it off and just separate from it and just kind of turn the engines off? Or is it having that support system you talked about? Like how do you not let the stress of all that and the responsibility of that get to you?
Honestly, I think it's my kids. I think it's like a different world. It's literally checking out of work and that whole dynamic. I'm myself, but I'm also I'm mom now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then going again to like the sporting event, like nothing brings me more joy than watching my kids succeed at something, whether it's like my two older kids play sports. My youngest is an artist, and I just enjoy watching what being a onlooker on what makes them joyful, So I would say, yeah, I think checking out and checking in. I think if I didn't have kids, I wasn't somebody that wanted kids. I wasn't like one of those.
I ended up with 3.
I know. I don't know what the hell happened, but I am like, what a great distraction from yourself for me, not for everybody, but.
Well, that's the problem is sometimes people who have kids do not give themselves over to that. Like, all right, now I'm in the mom mode. Like there's still a lot of selfish behavior where they don't think about the well-being of kids and they're, well, mom's going through a tough time, and certainly we all go through tough times, but yeah, that's that selfishness that a lot of people experience with their parents when maybe they didn't want to be parents or they didn't, want to have kids and don't have that switch that they can flip to be like, well, now I have to be in mom mode and the other stuff has to wait. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. And there's moments where I'm in mom mode and like, I would say nighttime is, after you've had one of these days and, just like giving your energy. And then you come home and you're like, can you brush your teeth? 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 Can you brush your fucking teeth?
Yeah.
Brush your teeth. No, you know what? Forget it. Don't brush your teeth.
You're have candy. Have some candy.
Yeah. I actually show them pictures of people with no teeth. I'm like, this is you.
The big book of British smiles.
You can move to the UK.
Right. Yeah. Well, now, does that people-pleasing behavior and that sort of wanting to always be kind of like the light, airy mood, how does that contradict the role of a CEO, of a small business owner? Because we haven't talked about it yet, but you started your own makeup line in 2020 called Jamie Makeup, which started with the Blylighter. I remember all this. Like I said, I followed the progression. Amazing. My wife loves it. She uses it.
I don't know what you're using, but you are aging backwards.
Well, it's lighting. It's all specialty lighting, and I hide the gray in the beard. But do you find that you have to switch a different switch when you're talking to distributors and to manufacturers and to stores that are going to buy your makeup? Like, do you have to be badass business bitch? You know what I mean? Like, or do you stay in the nice breezy Jamie energy and people go, oh, that's a change from other business owners?
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? I don't really enjoy the business landscape. I don't, the female, I mean, this is like, I shouldn't even say this.
No.
Being real.
You should.
Absolutely.
This whole like female empowerment, like founder female, like everybody wears these badges on their shoulders. And it's like, everybody is like, I don't even know how to explain it. I just don't enjoy the environment. I would sit in the corner. I've been to a million of these like panels and I've watched panels. I've been on panels.
Women in business.
Women in business. Yeah. First of all, I'm going to tell you something. There are very few women that really, really support women. I don't know what it is in our DNA, but like women don't want other women to succeed past their, that is my experience. We want you to do well, but not better than me. Okay. So I've had to deal with a lot of that. Now, luckily, Josh does a lot of the heavy lifting, but I have noticed that I have to, I have different vendors for every product, and it's a very antiquated business. Like you wouldn't believe, like they're stuck in like the 80s, like just the how long it takes for things, the promising of things, delivering something else. And I thought it was me. Because again, I took it personally and was like, oh, it's because we're small and nobody cares.
Or maybe I'm not bitchy enough and get to like
I'm not demand. A cunt. I think if you are a cunt, sorry, can you say that on
You absolutely can.
Then you will succeed. If you're an asshole, you're going to do well. You're going to be rich.
Ain't it the truth?
See, Ryan, that's why we're all last. That's why we're all poor. We're all just too nice.
It's so true. And so I just I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
You weren't a cunt.
I wasn't a cunt. Oh yeah. So then I realized I know a couple people that are very successful that are super supportive and super nice. And so I'll go to them as like a consigliere and get a second opinion and stuff. And they have taught me to find the inner strength to stick up for myself and demand things and not people please. And so, I'm not afraid to do that now. So I've learned that through that I've learned from some women. So I won't say all women, but I would say a majority of women don't want to help you. But a majority of women, not a majority, a minority of women do want to help you. So
well, it also seems like you started this business not out of, well, I got to do this money grab while I can. Like you created this product that is, allow me, that is a blush and a highlighter, which is something that people hadn't really had and seen before. So you filled this need because as a makeup artist, you probably were like, I've got to do 2 different products to create this look. But if I can create this, so it's like it was at a necessity, right? And now you started to make other products, on top of that I would imagine fill those same categories. You're like, well, this is a hole in this industry that needs to be filled. So you're making that, and people are responding to that, I think.
Yeah, no, I exactly. And that's what I love about it. It's like giving people something that I know that's going to make them happy. It's like a little piece of myself in every product. And we don't make a ton of different products because of that, because why just put more noise into this category that's already so oversaturated? I really am trying to give you products that are going to make your life easier and that are easy to use. And I love it. We're trying to raise money, like everybody's trying to raise money, but we're just trying to raise money to reorder things because we've run out of a lot of our stock. And I remember people would say that and I'd be like, oh, boo hoo. Yeah. You sold out of your stuff and you can't afford it. I leave you. But I get it now because you can't just buy like that color. You have to buy all the components and then you have to fill them, and nobody's going to do a small run for you. So it is a good problem to have. And I realize that there is a market for what I'm selling. So yeah, it's such a great learning experience. I actually enjoy every minute of it. I love it.
Do you have a head for it? Like, do you have a head for business in that?
I don't think so. I'm really good at selling and I'm good at connecting. And when I used to work on the retail store floor, I could meet you and say, hey, babe, what are you looking for? And they would say this. And I'd be like, oh, you need this, this, this. And I would sell it. I was a high seller. People were happy because I wasn't bullshit. I really want to give you, I don't want to just sell. I want to give you something worthy of your money. Yeah. And so, but as far as like the numbers and I know what's going to do well. I have that. Like I could be a product developer for other brands. I know what's good. I know texture. I know everything about product.
You're in the trenches.
I'm in the trenches. I know everything that I put out, I know what the problem is or what went wrong or what is going to be great about this. My husband's better with like numbers and stuff. So we're a good team in that sense.
Producer. He knows how.
Yeah, exactly.
Pull things together. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a good team, but I'm not one of these like, I don't know. I got to make a comparison. Okay. So when I was trying to do a little stand-up improv, that kind of stuff, there was a desperation amongst many people. You know this.
Been there.
You don't feel that way to me. You're like a true craftsman, right? But there's this thirst that's so great. And
a lot of those performers are, and this is a generalization, they're filling a hole. There's something that's missing, and they turn to comedy and improv specifically to fill that, like, there's something missing, and I feel that this community might, but the problem is those communities, just like women in business, are not always the most supportive. There's a lot of cutthroat, like, I'm trying to get to the top. I want to be in the Sunday Company. I want a headline. You can open, So yeah, there isn't the support that they think there's going to be.
And I feel that I will make the comparison that is the same thing as women in business. And it's a very unpopular opinion. I don't think anyone talks like this, but I'm just going to call it what it is,
Well, it's interesting that you make that point because I've had that thought. My perspective on certain things have evolved as I've been in the mental health field. I've been a feminist since I was young. Like I was raised by very progressive parents. Like I always have had a very strong affinity for, strong, women. Smart, talented women.
Co-ed bathrooms at UCLA.
That's
but there's this age-old question, or at least going back to the feminist movement of the 60s or 70s. It's like, can you have it all, right? And I look at a lot of women in that world that you're talking about, the kind of women you're describing, and it's like to succeed in a lot of business, in the business world in a lot of aspects, it doesn't matter whether you're a man or woman, there is a certain kind of personality and a certain type of behavior that goes with being competitive, right? You have to be highly competitive, highly driven, workaholic. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of industries, to get ahead and to compete, you have to be the one willing to put in more hours and shake more hands and schmooze and hustle. And then you find some people aren't interested in having another life outside of that, and that's their life. And I fully support that. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. But if you're talking about having it all, you're talking about being a parent as well as doing that. You're talking about being a human being who has a life outside of your work. That is a challenge. That is a challenge whether you're a man or a woman, but in particular for women, because look, as a therapist, I've studied attachment. I've studied the kind of wounds that people have when they have caregivers who are not present, who are or are selfish and focused more on their needs than on their child's needs. And so it's a complicated question for me now. Like, I'm fully supportive of women pursuing whatever they want and should have the right to make as much money or more than a man and all that stuff. But if you're talking about having children and spending all of your time on you and your business in the ways that are required to compete on that level, and then whatever's left over, spending time with your kids, I have some opinions about that now that I didn't have when I was younger, and I didn't understand what impact that can have. And it sounds like you're walking this fine line, but you're very present with your kids and you're there making sure they brush their teeth and all this stuff. But that's a tough thing to do. Yeah, right. That's a tough balance. I mean, it sounds like your personality is not by nature that sort of cutthroat business person, that you've figured out how to be authentic both as a parent and as someone running a business and as a professional. But that's not an easy thing for most people to do, to strike that balance. How do you manage that?
Again, my family, my husband, he really picks up a lot of the slack. And we use Slack as an app, so that helps too.
There's a lot of Slack happening.
This is an ad for Slack. I think that, I don't even know. I just feel like I guess what you said is very true in the characteristics of what it means to get to the top, the cutthroat, and I am competitive. I played college soccer, remember?
I do remember.
And I enjoy, competing on Peloton now. That's like,
get to the top of that mountain.
Yeah, I do feel like what is success? What is it? What is it to you? What is it to anybody? What is success? So like, is success, as I've gotten older too, it's like, success going to be like having 3 houses and like, is that success? Am I happy? Like,
that sounds pretty good.
Good.
I'd be down with that.
I'd be down too, but like, I think that's the thing. It's like, money does not always buy happiness, right? Money does not always bring joy. And I see that every day in this town. Like, you could have all the money in the world and you're miserable. We see it all the time. You could turn that off. But I think as I've gotten older and I realize I'm not going to work 150 hours a week on this line, I'm like, I'm successful if everybody is mentally healthy in my house. And if guys, no, I'm just kidding.
Mentally
healthy in the house, and we can afford our lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yes. Would I love to have more great vacations, fly first class with my family? That would be like the dream, right? And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I can still work towards that, but I have to really be grateful for what I have, because it is a lot, and it's a lot more than a lot of people have. And I've worked very hard to get there, and I will continue to do so. But yeah, I think it's really just a choice at the end of the day. It's a choice if you want to be 24/7 business. That does not bring me joy.
Yeah.
It doesn't bring me joy.
For me, it seems like, and this is coming from someone who I don't feel like I've achieved that balance of like when people go, are you doing everything you can for your career? And I go, no, I could absolutely be doing more. But it's sort of this balance of what you're willing to let go and what you're willing to like dedicate your time and your life to, and finding that perfect balance of like just rolling with shit. You know what I mean? Like I'm a roll with it guy. My wife is not a roll with it gal at all. Like and it's sort of the fun dichotomy of our relationship where, like, you know, if I am walking down the street and I see a lamp someone's throwing away, I might bring it hhome and say, hey, let's find a place for that. It's absolutely not, you know, or it's like, hey, there's someone's walking by and they're going to come over and have dinner. Absolutely not. We didn't plan that. We don't have, you know what I mean? Like, I can just roll with, you want to show up at my house? The unscheduled pop in. I love the unscheduled pop in. It's a fate worse than hell for my wife. You know what I mean? But in life and career, I feel like it's that same sort of balance of like how much you're willing to just roll with shit and how much you're willing to be like, well, I'm going to adapt. Yeah, I'm 8.5 months pregnant and Drake needs makeup, but it's more important to me to stay home and you know, get ready to have this baby than it is to have the experience of going to the chateau and doing Drake's makeup at midnight. And that's the decision that you made in that moment. Now, as a business owner, if the distributor calls and says there was a mix up and we have 10,000 units that are useless, you can't roll with that. You can't be like, whatever. You got to figure out a solution. But it's how you deal with that solution, how you approach it. If you go, all right, let's roll up our sleeves and figure it out. Or if you lose your shit and say, how dare you? I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue everybody. Like it's your approach, right?
Yeah.
And so it sounds to me like you have a great balance of that, because it's the same way you do your Instagram videos. They don't feel scripted. They don't feel timed down to the minute and exact. They just feel like you're kind of rolling with it. And I'm sure you do multiple takes if you mess something up. But for the most part, it's like, yeah, that was good. That got the message across that I want to do. And so do you feel like that is your approach, kind of the healthy approach of like, don't give a shit about the things that you can't control, and, you know, but the things you can control, go about them in a positive way rather than losing your mind when things go wrong, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think 100%, like, hit the nail on the head. Yeah. And I do think that when I compare to the people that are on their yachts, they don't do that. It is 24/7.
Which might work for them.
Yes,
but it doesn't work for us. For people like
I mean,
us.
I wish I had a little bit more of that,
Me
and
too.
I have learned to kind of harness a little of that energy from like the mentors in my life. But for the most part, it's not who I am. Yeah. And also, and I'm sure you feel this way too, I don't always want to go shake hands. I don't want to go to the parties. I don't have that energy. I do that all day. So
I don't get invited to the parties, but if I did, I wouldn't want to go. So screw you guys.
I want to get invited, but I'm not going to go.
Gotcha.
And I don't have the bandwidth, you know? So when I do go to something, I end up having a great time and I get to see everybody and it's great. And then I'll like come home and be like, that's what I need to do. I really need to pack my nights and go out and do that but I don't want to. And that probably is why I don't have like a second house, you know?
Well, Ryan and I talk about that for this podcast. You know, there's a second job in terms of doing this, that is promotion, that is getting the word out there, making connections. You know, Ryan's going to mental health events and making those connections, but it requires putting on that face, literally or metaphorically. It requires, you know, shaking the hands and being maybe something that's not 100% what you are authentically, you know what I mean? And it's a tough place to live.
It really is, right? And especially like, I also look at people and I'm like, that's our job. Like as an actor, as a therapist, like if I was a therapist, I think I'd sit in a dark closet all night.
It's tempting, believe me.
But I'm saying like, that's the last thing I want to do. I've spent all day parenting and then giving myself to whoever I'm working with.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to sit in traffic for 45 minutes but sometimes I do it. But a lot of times I'll just be like, I can't get there. I can't get there physically and I can't get there mentally. So I'm out. And I have no problem with that. Where like 10 years ago, I would have been like beating myself up and upset about it. And I would have gone, I went to a lot of stuff, went to tons of things. And listen, there would be more opportunity for me you and everyone who wants to do that's work.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm just like, you know what, not doing that is going to save me mentally, and I'll be here for my family. I'd rather go to practice. I'd rather sit and shoot the shit with parents who have no idea about this business.
Film bathrooms at softball fields.
Yeah.
Jamie does a running commentary of the state of public bathrooms at various softball fields. And let me tell you,
people love it. It's disgusting. And people now, like, people will, like, this one girl I went to college with, and then just a bunch of people that follow me will be like rating them 1 through 10. So now they'll be like, that's a 4, or that has a trash can, that's an 8, you know?
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
I wish that social media had existed when I was touring, because that would have been a good ongoing thing. Because James, our guitar player, made a really good point one day when we were on tour, maybe a year or two into supporting Songs About Jane. He goes, you know, essentially, if you break it down, being on tour is essentially just one long adventure trying to find a good place to take a shit. You wake up, you get off the bus, you're like, well, I'll check out the venue. That might work, might not. Which restaurant around here might have a acceptable toilet for me to sit on?
You know, sometimes we struggle to find a usable sound clip to promote an episode. I don't feel like we're going to have that problem this time.
Not to get on that topic, but sometimes I'll just have a daydream. I'll be driving and thinking about how, like, it's something literally every single person does, but how could it be so hard to find a bathroom? Like, humans are so disruptive that they will ruin the chances of us being able to freely use a bathroom because of the way they left the bathroom. So it is. I bet you in Japan they have like just toilets on the corner.
Yeah. They've revolutionized bathrooms,
and they respect their elders and their toilets.
Lots of respect.
Let's go to Japan.
So I'm curious. I want to ask you about this as a last topic. I don't want to take you too long over the hour here, but you were talking. I mean, in terms of managing all that stuff, social media is something that Duck and I are kind of struggling with in regards to what we were just talking about, in terms of the amount of time and effort it takes after you've already done the work. Now you have to engage in this way where you have to create content, you have to curate content, you have to engage with your audience and think about it in terms of promotion. It sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, I kind of want to hear how you do it, because it sounds like it's more integrated into what you do. It's a part of your lifestyle. It's not like then after everything's done, now I got to think about my social media. You've somehow made it a part of your business and a part of your lifestyle. Is that the case? And if so, does that come natural, or is there a way you had to sort of...
Can you help us is what Ryan
exactly.
I enjoy it. Like, I like talking to the audience. Again, I like connecting with people. So I like my stories. It's like pretty much just me on the fly every day, giving you a glimpse, chatting. If I have a day where I feel inspired and I want to give you the quote, I'm going to give it to you. If I have a day that I feel fabulous and look good in the light, I'm going to show it to you. Like, the stories to me is the easiest part. Being on the fly and giving you a 30-second, window to wherever I am. That's fun. The actual, like, edited videos. So I don't do it alone. I have Josh helping think of ideas. And then I have Hannah, who also she's an actress, comedian who has been working with me forever, and just, it's like her side gig, and she will come up with great ideas and then she'll edit it. So I don't spend time doing the stuff that's laborious and annoying and like is the worst part about social media. Yeah. I just get to be me, shoot it, and then she cuts it and posts it. So I think that takes it. That's where all my money goes. That's what's taking the negative out of that for me. So I think, like, in order for me to be able to do other stuff, I don't have time to do that. I'm trying to do it for my kids. For Lenny's, I'm the Instagram person on Lenny's softball team. And so I try to put stuff together and it's like, oh. Yeah. And sometimes I just want to be like Hannah, but I can't ask her to do it. But now Lenny's getting good at cutting on like cap cuts. So she'll like be like, I cleaned up what you made. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, literally it takes a team to do it. But the stories, I feel like everybody has something going on every day that's like funny or interesting or inspirational or dull. but it's fun to show that kind of stuff. And then, you know, sometimes I'll get on a roll. Like also whenever I travel, I do this thing called airport shoe game. And I just started doing it, and like I just waste time looking at everybody's shoes. At first I did people, and I was like, someone was like, you're really mean. And I was like, you're right, that is mean. But if I show shoes, nobody knows who they belong to. And I think you can start to find games within the social media world that you can play, you know, and there's always like, and sometimes I'll be like, this is hilarious. Like the other day, one of the players left her glove at the private school we were practicing at, and all the boys teams were practicing. So what did I do? I took the glove and I made all the boys do something funny with the glove and posted this story on her.
That could have been dangerous.
Yeah, I know. I was like, where's this going? And then she showed up and took her glove. But I posted it and I was like, that was a fun game within this world that, you know, so sometimes you find it's just like a shtick. You find a shtick and that'll get you through your stories.
Well, you make stars of dentists and estheticians and facialists, and like you can tell Jamie's like, so I'm here getting this treatment done. What's your name? And the girl will be like, I'm Maria. She'll be like, but it does speak to your ability. Like Ryan and I talk about that. Like I couldn't do that. Like, and I'm an outgoing guy, but the part of me that would be like, I'm just going to film this, okay? And then just be like, hey guys, I'm here, and just. But you have this natural magnetism that makes people go, yeah, I'll do this. I'll roll with it. I'll be a part of it. So it does. It speaks a lot to your ability to connect with people and make people feel comfortable. Because a lot of people who are like plucking eyebrow hairs probably aren't used to someone being like, so what are you doing exactly at this moment? You know.
You're right. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, I never thought of it.
I always think about, I think about the people that you're putting in those positions where they have to be like, yeah, I guess you could film this. Most people don't. You're like, nah, that's fine.
You know what's funny is like, before this really became big, I used to shoot videos all the time for YouTube and stuff like that. And I feel like I did a couple series on YouTube. One is called Show Me the Boudoir with Allure magazine. And then I did one called Pretty Little Pranksters where we pranked people. And that was with Michelle Phan, who's like this big makeup influencer. But it wasn't popular. And I remember for Show Me the Boudoir, I'd go to people's celebrities' houses and I'd be like, show me your boudoir. Show me what you use every day. Show me where you get ready. What do you get ready with? And I remember a lot of the publicists would relay messages to my agent, because we have agents here in LA for everything. And they'd be like, yeah, we're not going to send Jamie to any of our clients because we think it's really disruptive that she's, you know, filming their, you know, areas and stuff like that. Like I just go in like I'm the show Cops from the 90s, like break down the door. They all wanted to do it.
I'm going to send in the dog.
Everybody does it.
Yeah.
It's so funny. So we were like really ahead of the curve.
You were like Apple with the Newton. If only you'd known.
If only I had known. Yeah, dude, shit.
Well, it's clear to me that the special sauce for everything you do is this personality, the people skills that you have, because you wouldn't get away with some of that stuff if you weren't
likable.
Yeah. So you've cracked the code to a certain extent. Some of that sounds like it's your nature and your personality, but also you've just figured out how to use that to your advantage and make it a part of your business. So it's awesome. It's inspiring. I mean, I think that taking the attitude that you're describing and being present and personable with the people that you engage with, whether it's in your business or just, you know, at the park with the softball and in the bathroom, you know.
Yeah. You know, my husband, when you have this personality, just to leave you on this is how you have a successful marriage. You've been married 21 years. Met him at Ithaca. So my husband knows that this is my superpower. So literally, you guys, he will text me at a party and be like, I'm in an Uber, almost home. He just leaves.
Without telling you?
Without telling me. Because he's an Irish goodbye guy, and I'm takes 2 hours to say bye to everybody girl.
Okay. So
that's what, I mean, and people are like, don't you get so mad at him? I'm like, you know what? No, because some days I want to just Irish goodbye. Mm-hmm. So I know that's how he is all the time. He is, as much as I am social, he is not. So I mean, I get it. And that's the secret to staying married is letting everybody be an individual and do what makes them happy.
Coming soon, separate bedrooms.
Yes.
Because everybody goes to sleep at their own time.
I would like that.
Yeah, sounds great, right?
Well, opposites attract for a reason. You know, there's a balancing that goes on. People being different in a relationship can be complementary, not incompatible. So sounds like that works for you guys. But Jamie, this has been delightful. It's been really entertaining.
Well, worth the wait, right?
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry it took so long. That was really, I don't like to do that. So I apologize, but it was really fun chatting with you guys.
Yeah, it was really a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. This has been another wonderful conversation here on the Harder to Breathe podcast. Check out new episodes every Tuesday. We'll see you next time right here on the Harder to Breathe podcast.